I recently learned about this term called quiet quitting, where you're not outright quitting your job, but you're quitting the idea of going above and beyond. You're still performing your duties, but you're no longer subscribing to the hustle culture mentality that work has to be your life. The reality is it's not, and your worth as a person is not defined by your labor.
Okay, so the latest TikTok trend is quiet quitting, and it kind of sounds like it involves whispering.
Yeah, very Zen-like. So for more on this workplace phenomenon and implications for employers and workers, we're joined live now by employment lawyer Deborah Hudson. Deborah, thank you for joining us. So when you hear quiet quitting, when we first heard about it, we thought, oh, what is this? What exactly does it mean? Are you quitting? Are you staying? What are you doing? But according to this viral TikTok trend, it's all about kind of balancing and not doing more than you're really supposed to for the sake of mental health. Is that accurate?
I would say yes, that's definitely accurate.
So what about this? Are there concerns as an employee who may have felt overworked after the couple of years of the pandemic and maybe took on a little bit more to sort of start to withdraw some of what you're doing? Are there inherent risks there for employees, or would you advise people to do something like this?
I mean, I think I would never advise someone to disengage from work. That might not be the best way to get promotions and pay raises and stuff like that. But if you slowly pull back, I think it would be hard for an employer to argue there's just cause for dismissal. But, if your compensation is based on commissions or performance, it might hit you a certain way.
Absolutely. And, Deborah, the pandemic forced many people to work at home. I know anecdotally from people who are close to me, friends, family, that they actually took on more work because they were working from home. Suddenly, there was no demarcation of when their day started, when it ended. So could quiet quitting kind of be a response to, hey, the pandemic is winding down, we're going back to the office half the time, and I'm going to start setting some boundaries?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, first of all, people are burnt out from the pandemic, and that might especially apply for parents. And, as you said, others who were working much longer hours because they were working from home. And I think the pandemic also shifted the way that workers look at, the way that they work. But definitely a way for people to set boundaries and protect their mental health is part of the trend.
I didn't expect you to say that you would advise people in my first question there to you to sort of do something like that. But that's kind of what I'm intrigued about here, because if you suddenly either physically or sort of, statistically show, are working less, that kind of does sort of limit your prospects here. So it's kind of, I get the balance side on the one thing, but I'm trying to wrap, maybe I'm too stuck up in this sort of rat race thing here of doing this. Like, how do you sort of rationalize this, or what would you sort of, what are the pitfalls, I suppose, is what I'm getting at?
Well, the pitfalls are, first of all, if you're disengaged. I genuinely think people in the workplace are going to be happier if they're engaged, and that involves both the employer and the employee. But if you're disengaged, you might not get the promotion or the pay raise you want, or, an employer can terminate you without cause, which means you'll get a package. But if you're not long service, that might not be a big package. But I think, employees have more leverage right now to act this way just because the job market has been employee friendly right now. There's staff shortages, so that might be playing into this trend.
Yeah, so Deborah, if you're a Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen J, I've lost count of how many letters are in the gens. Let's say you're a young person, you're on TikTok, you see this trend, you want to try it out, and you're like, hey, my contract stipulates that this is in my job description. But when they go to work, they have they're used to doing something different. Their employees, their coworkers are used to them working in a different way. If they suddenly just adhere to what is strictly written in their job contract, and then they get fired or let go, do they have a case? Can they come to you and say, I was fired without reason?
Yeah, so I mean, the reality is in Ontario and Canada, it's hard to prove a just cause termination. A just cause is with zero notice. So for performance issues, which this would be, an employer would have to performance manage the employee, do write-ups and performance management, and to get the level of just cause is hard. So they would have a case for some notice. The question is how much notice, and if they're relatively short service, it might not be very much, and it might not be worth the conduct. But if the job market's in their favor right now, as it is in some industries, then they might not care.
Yeah, of course, industry by industry, it's certainly intriguing. All right, well, we've got to terminate this chat right now, but Deborah Hudson, employment lawyer, certainly appreciate the time and insight this afternoon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.